Hello, my name is Johnny Kelly, and I will be discussing the needs and challenges of disaster relief workers. Disaster relief is a crucial process that involves providing immediate assistance to individuals and communities affected by these traumatic events, such as natural disasters, accidents, or crises. These events often result in physical, emotional, and psychological distress for the community. In the midst of a disaster, the primary goal of relief efforts is to provide urgent care to meet the immediate needs of those that are impacted, like shelter, food, water, or resources, and psychological support. Disaster relief also involves long-term recovery effects, rebuilding physical and emotional and mental health needs of the communities. One of the key aspects of disaster relief is understanding the physical and emotional impacts that come in the aftermath, particularly as individuals move forward through various phases of recovery, including the heroic phase, the honeymoon phase, and the disillusionment phase. By having mental health support, trauma care, and community-based recovery strategies, disaster relief can help individuals cope with trauma, rebuild their lives, and build resilience in the process. The heroic phase is the initial period after a disaster. This phase is when communities and counselors, support groups, first responders, they all come together to help those affected by these disasters. They collaborate with police officers, nurses, first responders, disaster relief teams, and volunteers to assist those that are affected. They provide unity, bravery, and other needed resources as they work to address the immediate needs, like search and rescue teams. They provide food, shelter, and offer emotional support as well. The counselors show an extraordinary sense of resilience and cooperation during this process. They may deny the impact it has on them and their own family. They may deny the impact on their living situations. They may use extreme measures to protect their families in the process. They are heroic in the fact that they are supporting these individuals, the counselors. It also drains energy in that phase because it is a long-term phase. They're committed to the clients in this process. Sometimes they neglect their own emotions, their own supports, and their own feelings during this process to assist these in need. They also must remain focused on their own emotions, realizing that this is a draining process, but it is also rewarding. They must remain focused and vigilant in the process. In the video, she states that the disaster relief team at her church was very exhausted after this process. She states that they were almost in denial to their own needs. They don't really consider the long-term effects that it has on their self. They focus on the assistance and the needs of others, which can be seen as heroic. Once the heroic phase is over, then comes the honeymoon phase. Once the immediate relief efforts slow down and people begin to face the ongoing challenges of rebuilding their lives, this is when the phase begins. The survivors sometimes may feel that everything is going to be okay, as well as the counselors. They may have a gratitude and focus on the good times that they've had. They have a sense of relief that things are going to get better. In the video, she highlights the effect of Hurricane Katrina. Even though things were very horrific and terrible, they begin to go through the crash point phase. This is a long-term phase that sometimes takes years, months to recover. But they continue to support the survivors in the process. Even though there's one step forward and one step back phase, we have hope and we celebrate the small growth that they experience and they go through and that the community has. there is a small growth during that phase. Survivors, the crash point phase affects survivors, the support systems, in the community, and also the responders. Survivors may begin to feel overwhelmed by the emotional and physical demands of this recovery, especially as they face displacement of their homes, loss of valuable items, or the loss of loved ones. The responders of these disasters may begin to feel overwhelmed. They may be burnt out, but they continue to support during this recovery. Once the community realizes that rebuilding and recovering from these disasters take time, resources are very limited, and the emotional impact of the disaster is deeper than the frustration and exhaustion, and the sense of hopelessness begins to set in. The survivors may feel the weight of this disaster, and this may lead to depression, trauma, anxiety, or other mental health disorders, drug use, and sometimes violence. They cope with the fact that they know how, but they cope the way they know how to, but it's not always a good thing for their recovery process. A treatment plan for individuals that are affected by these disasters involves a flexible approach that addresses both their immediate and long-term psychological needs. Initially, the psychological first aid stabilizes the individual. It addresses immediate concerns like safety and access to other basic needs. And this reduces stress through certain techniques and active listening. Following this, crisis counseling helps normalizes stress responses. It teaches coping strategies, and it manages anxiety for the client. For long-term recovery, trauma-focused therapies are used to help individuals process the traumatic memories and prevent other conditions like PTSD. Social and community support also plays an important role. Encourage to connect with others who have shared the similar experiences, promote healing, and resilience. Regular follow-up and monitoring ensures that progress is sustained and additional mental health needs are addressed. Attention is given to vulnerable populations like children, elderly, and individuals with disabilities. This provides interventions that meet their unique needs. Overall, the treatment plan emphasizes a holistic approach. It promotes recovery through emotional support, therapeutic interventions, community engagement, and the continuous care to help individuals rebuild resilience and cope with the aftermath of their disaster. The effects of a disaster can significantly impact individuals, their communities, and even their support systems. The emotional and psychological consequences, such as trauma, grief, anxiety, or depression, can often linger long after the immediate physical damage. Disasters disrupt daily life, they challenge individuals' sense of safety, and they create a feeling of hopelessness. This can lead to a range of mental health disorders. The social, economic, and physical strain often complicates the recovery process. However, with the appropriate disaster relief strategies, timely interventions, and psychological support, individuals can begin their process of healing. The journey through the phase of a disaster, like the heroic phase, the honeymoon phase, and the disillusionment phase, require empathy, patience, and a consistent efforts to build resilience and long-term recovery in their community. Through effective counseling, community support groups, individuals and communities can rebuild their physical environments and their emotional well-being in this process.